We have so many people dying in Gaza, many thousands, too many thousand people dying in Gaza. There is a humanitarian emergency, and there is not anymore the time to just talk about a ceasefire. It's time to take concrete actions. I know you have been very recently, actually, in Israel and the West Bank to meet, of course, the leaders of the two sides. So in your experience and also in your position as the French Minister of Foreign Affairs, what are the concrete steps which should be made by France together with the European allies to reach, this urgent ceasefire? Please.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. You're right to say that people are dying in Gaza, but people are also starving in Gaza. They are being forced to be displaced from their homes, and they're also now dying not because of the bombs, but because of the diseases that have spread out in this territory. And you're also right to say that speaking is not enough, and that the responsibilities of countries like France is to act. And since the beginning of this very severe crisis, France has been acting. It is France that hosted the first international conference for Gaza 1 month after October 7th, 2023. France has supported all resolutions in the Security Council of the United Nations calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, for the release of hostages, for the free access of humanitarian help. The latest dates back to a few days ago in New York. France has been the first Western country to heal wounded people from Gaza on one of our Navy ships. And France is one of the very few countries that are directly supporting the Palestinian authorities financially. But of course, this is not enough, because what we really need is a ceasefire, is the release of hostages, is the free access of humanitarian help, and is a path to a political solution that is based on two states with mutual recognitions and security guarantees that will allow the Israelis and the Palestinians to live side by side in peace and in security. And this is what President Macron is working on with our allies, with the Arab countries in the region, to make sure this happens as early as possible.
Votre Excellence, bienvenue à Rome. I will move to Lebanon, where the ongoing conflict has wreaked havoc on a country that already was suffering from economic and political crisis. And it's jeopardizing the very fabric of the country itself. France has historically enjoyed a privileged relationship with Lebanon. You recently hosted a conference in Paris for its humanitarian and security needs. Can you elaborate maybe a bit more on the role that France is playing in the ceasefire negotiations and the way forward, particularly as many in the country would like to see France actively involved?
Thank you very much for raising the situation of Lebanon. That is a country very dear to France, a country that was already, as you rightly said, very fragile before the terrestrial incursion by Israel two months ago. And that was already in a dramatic situation, and that is now facing a catastrophic situation with the bombings of infrastructure, the massive displacement of population that are putting a huge stress on the most basic services. And as people are displaced from their homes, are now have now moved north and are staying in schools that are still closed in Lebanon to host those internal refugees. And as the winter is coming, the risk of epidemics, of disease is now extremely high. And of course, the risk of interconfessional tensions is as high as it's ever been in Lebanon. And that's why we need the fire to stop. And that's why we need to work closely with all our allies and with the parties, with Israel and the Lebanese political leaders, in order to find the way to effectively implement Resolution 1701 of the Security Council of the United Nations that was adopted in 2006, but that was not effectively implemented, which led to the situation that we know today, and that was started by the decision made by the Hezbollah to trigger yet another conflict with Israel on the 8th of October of 2023. Because of the very ancient and profound links that France has with Lebanon that dates back to a long time, but that are still living today through the presence of a large French community in Lebanon, the presence of 700 French troops within the UNIFIL mission. We feel it is our responsibility to actively contribute to a resolution of this crisis that threatens the existence of Lebanon itself. This is the reason why, as soon as the territorial incursion started 2 months ago, we worked with our American partners to come up with a formula establishing the condition for an immediate ceasefire, leading to the full implementation of 1701 resolution and 2735 resolution as well. We presented this formula in the first days or last days of September at the United Nations in New York. And since then, we've worked with all parties involved to refine this formula in order to make it more acceptable for the parties and make sure that it can indeed lead to full implementation of 1701. And my intuition and my hope is that there is a window of opportunity that is currently opening, and I urge the parties, Israel and the Hezbollah, to seize the proposal that France and the US has been working on in order for the ceasefire to happen and for the conditions to be met for the security of Israel and the return of the 60,000 Israeli people displaced from their homes, and for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Lebanon to be ensured, and for the 1 million plus of internal refugees in Lebanon to be able to go back to their homes. In parallel, and thank you for bringing it up, we are extremely concerned by the situation I was describing of the people of Lebanon. And this is the reason why President Macron decided to host the international conference that took place in Paris on October 24, just 1 month after the start of this territorial incursion, that allowed the international community to gather and raise more than $1 billion for
1 billion.
1 billion, more than $1 billion for the support, for the humanitarian support to the people of Lebanon, but also for the support to the Lebanese armed forces. Because the way we see it, and I will close with that, is for the 1701 resolution to be met and to be effectively implemented. What we need is a stronger articulation between the Lebanese armed forces and UNIFIL. We need to strengthen the Lebanese armed forces for them to be able to enforce the ceasefires and the conditions for the stabilization and the security in southern Lebanon. We also need a strengthened posture of the UNIFIL contingents. And on the sides of that, which is perhaps what has been lacking since the 1701 resolution was adopted in 2006, is a strong political power in Lebanon that is dedicated to the implementation of 1701 and that is giving all the legitimacy to UNIFIL and the LAF to make it possible. And to achieve this goal, we need the Lebanese to elect a president that will give the legitimacy to the LAF and to UNIFIL to conduct their missions under the realm of 1701. And that's why we are also facilitating these discussions between the Lebanese leaders in order for as we can to the Lebanese population. And we've been facilitating the political process in order for Lebanon to elect a president that will be the face of the unity and integrity of Lebanon, and that will give all necessary legitimacy for the LAF and for UNIFIL to implement their mandate under 1701.
Minister Barrot, we are in Italy, we are in the European Union, we are in front of many friends from the MENA region and well beyond. And now we know that from Ukraine, from Gaza, we have to speak the truth also to our friends. Beyond, the show of unity the European Union has been doing over the last 2 years, there are many clashes and divisions. This is true for Ukraine, but it is probably even more true for Gaza. Now we are at the beginning, finally, of a new political phase for the European Union with the new Commission, again, finally, with the new top figures of the European Union. Do you think that these clashes, these divides inside the European Union can be softened, or do you expect them even to grow, frankly speaking?
So I disagree with your assessment.
All right.
I want to stress that never has the European Union been so united as when we responded to the war of aggression of Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. In a few weeks only, we've been able to take steps that nobody thought that the EU was capable of 3 years ago.
That's true.
We've been able to establish sanctions in a proportion that was unseen before this war of aggression. We've been able to gather financial support to an extent that had been unseen in European history. And we've also seen the development of a financing instrument to support the delivery by European countries of military support, of training support to the Ukrainian armies.
This is what we've been doing so far, and that's for sure. But under Trump's new administration, it's going to be like this again?
And if so that's what we've done, you're right.
Yeah.
In some sense, Vladimir Putin is stimulating European unity by triggering this war of aggression on Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has sort of raised the issue of European security, and the way the Europeans have responded and will respond is by uniting to step up their defense effort, by realizing that they need to do more and to do better, to increase their defense spending, but also to develop their industrial and technological base. And since we're in Italy, I must highlight how convinced France and Italy are of the necessity to build up this industrial and technological defense basis, and also to find the resources at the European level to indeed expand this basis in order for us to ensure the security of the continent. And so in some sense, Vladimir Putin and his war of aggression will have triggered something that was not really, or had not really happened in Europe over or since the first community of defense project that dates back to the 50s, meaning the development of a unified European approach to its industrial defense bases and to the coordination of its efforts to ensure its own security. And as far as the Middle East is concerned, and as far as Lebanon is concerned, I also sense a lot of unity across leaders throughout Europe. This is due in part to the fact that we have troops on the ground there through the UNIFIL force. And again, as far as France and Italy are concerned, we have a clear perspective on how we see the future of Lebanon. We want Lebanon to be a strong state that controls its infrastructures, that controls its army, and that has the monopoly over force. This is our objective for the sake of Lebanon, but also in the interest of the security of Israel, that does not need yet another failed state at its northern border that would be a source of destabilization and that would be a source of trafficking, a source of terrorism, and so on and so forth. So we have a clear view of the path for Lebanon. And as far as Gaza is concerned, we also have a clear view that has been expressed multiple times, which is the need to establish a two-state solution, because there is no peace without justice, and we need this two-state solution to ensure the security of Israel and the recognition of the right of Palestinians to live at peace and in security alongside Israel.
To the final question, the E3, of which that includes France, is meeting with Iran this week to discuss its nuclear program. Can you perhaps comment on this and what you hope to achieve out of this meeting? And I think perhaps the question on everyone's mind in the region is, will this again be isolated from Iran's regional activities, including in Lebanon, at a time when the region has changed, not only with the wars in Gaza and Lebanon, but with the direct exchange of fire between Israel and Iran?
Thank you for raising this question. We call Iran to stop its destabilization activities in the region, whether it's in Lebanon, Syria and Iraq, whether it's in the Red Sea through the Houthis, whether it's by directly targeting Israel, like Iran has done 2 times in a row this year with massive ballistic attacks that we as France have contributed to avoid, so to speak. Of course, a very important concern that we share with our E3 partners, the UK and Germany, but also with Israel and other countries in the region, is Iran's nuclear program. Our vision is that we need, through negotiation, to obtain a rollback of this program that causes a direct threat to our security interests. But for this negotiation to happen, we need to see clear steps made by Iran in the direction of a rollback of its program. Because we have failed to see such steps in the recent past, we've decided to table a resolution at the IAEA calling for a full assessment, which is a testament of our determination to obtain concrete results from these discussions with Iran. So in summary, we want this discussion to happen with Iran, and we are open to dialogue, but we need to see concrete steps. Otherwise, we will have to conclude that negotiation is not the right way to go in order to obtain this rollback, and we'll have to resort to other tools that are specified in the JCPOA agreement that comes to an end in 12 months from now.
Can I just, as a quick follow-up on this, is it realistic to expect Iran today to roll back on whatever activities it has on the nuclear file at a time when it feels it is under attack? It has been attacked directly by Israel. Its first line of defense, which is its axis of resistance, the so-called axis of resistance, including Hezbollah, has taken a significant hit. Israel says it's taken out Iran's air defenses in the last attack. So in this broader context, what is the carrot and what is the stick? How realistic is it to expect that with nothing in return?
Let's not invert the roles, right? If we're discussing the tens of thousands of deaths in Gaza, if we're discussing the thousands of deaths, of civil deaths in Lebanon, it is because the region is now in a very critical situation. And this whole started with the 7th of October massacre triggered by the Hamas in Israel, followed on the 8th of October by the decision of Hezbollah to trigger a conflict at the northern Israeli border, and by sending tens of thousands of rockets to Israel over a year and a half. So Iran carries a heavy responsibility in the situation where we are at now. And if indeed Israel has replicated and weakened the military capacities of Hezbollah, it is precisely because they've been aggressed at first by the Hezbollah on October 8th. And Iran needs to come to the conclusion that this strategy of harassing Israel and through direct ballistic action and through its proxies has been a failure, and needs to roll back on its destabilization activity and roll back on the nuclear program that, beyond the security of Israel, poses a direct threat to our own France's, Germany's, UK's, and European security interests.
So unfortunately, time is over. Thank you very much, Mr. Varro, for being with us, and we close here. Thank you. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.